Why Billy Paul Vanished After Me and Mrs. Jones, December 1972. Billy Paul has the #1 record in America.
It's so
4 months later, he is finished on American radio. Permanently. Not a scandal, not a decline. One decision, made inside his own record label, about which song to release next.
but it's much too strong.
He told them not to do it. They did it anyway. Let me tell you who he was first.
Start marching the time. You better make up your mind.
8. The Boy on the Radio. Before I tell you what the industry took from this man, I want to tell you what he had, because he did not arrive at that #1 record by accident, and he was not a man who got lucky once. He was a professional musician for 20 years before most of you ever heard his name. He was born Paul Williams, December 1st, 1934, North Philadelphia. His mother kept a record collection in the house: Nat King Cole, Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, Nina Simone, Sam Cooke, and he grew up inside it. She sent him to the West Philadelphia Music School, then to the Granoff School of Music. He was on the radio at 11 years old. Local station, Weapon, 1945, 11. And I want to be precise about this because it matters for everything that comes after. He was not a soul singer who learned jazz. He was a jazz singer. That was the instrument. That was the training. At 16 years old, he spent a week on the same bill as Charlie Parker at Club Harlem in Philadelphia. 16. He told the author Fred Bronson, decades later, that in that 1 week, he picked up what would normally have taken 2 years. And he said Bird told him that if he kept struggling, he would go a long way. He said he never forgot it.
It's for people like you, people like me.
Hold that image. A teenager standing in the wings, watching Charlie Parker work, being told by Charlie Parker himself that he had something. In 1952, he cut his first record for Jubilee, a ballad called Why Am I? It did not chart. Nothing he recorded for the next 20 years charted. 20 years. Think about that timeline. He was on professional stages at 16, and he did not have a hit record until he was 37 years old, which tells you something about the man that no chart position ever will. He was not chasing a moment. He had already survived 2 decades without one. He kept working anyway. And I need you to hold on to that because there is a story coming in this video where what happened to Billy Paul was not neglect, and it was not bad luck, and it was not the market. It was a decision made deliberately by someone who knew him against his direct objection. We will get there. Before any of that, he had to stop being Paul Williams. And the reason why is smaller and stranger than you would expect. 7. The name that wasn't his.
It's so
Every artist on this channel gave something up to be heard. Billy Paul gave up his name, and he did not give it up for art, or for image, or for reinvention. He gave it up over a filing problem.
the cares and woes
His manager in the early 50s was a man named Jules Malvin. Paul was in the middle of a 6-week run at the Apollo in Harlem, opening for other acts, and there was a practical difficulty. There was already a songwriter named Paul Williams. There were other musicians named Paul Williams. The name was crowded, so Malvin flipped it. Paul Williams became Billy Paul.
And precious.
And that is the name on the Grammy. That is the name on the #1 record. That is the name in the obituaries. The one his mother gave him is not on any of it.
And miss.
Then in 1957, at 23 years old, the United States Army drafted him, and the career stopped.
Wished she could marry.
Here is where the story turns unbelievable, and every part of this is documented. He was stationed in Germany. On that same base was Gary Crosby, Bing Crosby's son. Also on that base, in that same period, was Elvis Presley. Paul and Gary Crosby put together an ensemble called the Jazz Blues Symphony Band and toured it through Germany. He said years later, plainly, that they started the band so they would not have to do hard labor in the service. He also boxed while he was in. He was honorably discharged in 1959. He came home to Philadelphia, and for the next 12 years, nothing happened. He recorded for small labels. He worked the clubs. He was respected by musicians and invisible to everyone else. And then, in 1967, he married a woman named Blanche Williams, a production manager. And she is going to matter more to the end of this story than any executive in it. Remember her.
How can she be?
Some of you are hearing this name for the first time right now. That is not your fault, but it does not have to stay that way.
Money and bright, fancy clothes.
By 1971, he finally had the label everyone wanted. It made things worse before it made them better. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. 6. 3 albums nobody bought. There is a version of this story where Philadelphia International Records saved Billy Paul's career. That version is true. There is another version where Philadelphia International ended it. That one is also true. Both things happened 4 months apart, and I want you to understand the first before you judge the second. Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff had been working with him for years already. In 1971, they founded Philadelphia International, financially backed and distributed by CBS. They signed him again. Gamble's own words about that voice, said publicly after Paul died, "You do not know anybody who has a voice like that." He was not wrong. It was a thick tenor with jazz phrasing sitting inside a soul label. Nobody sounded like it because nobody had that training. And it did not sell at all. Ebony Woman, then Going East, modest sales. His first record for the new label was essentially straight club jazz, and the market did not move for it. By 1972, he had made 3 albums in this system, and none of them had broken. He was 37 years old, with 20 years of professional work behind him, and no hit. So for the 4th album, they changed the entire approach. They built it to show him off as a complete entertainer, across every style he could sing. They called it 360 Degrees of Billy Paul. And buried on it, as track 4, was a song about adultery that Gamble and Huff had written with a man named Carey Gilbert. Paul said afterward that he knew it was a hit before it came out. He said it was a song everybody could relate to. A lot of radio programmers disagreed. Stations refused to play it, not because it described an affair, but because it described one without condemning it. They were wrong. Spectacularly, historically wrong. And what happened next is the most successful thing Philadelphia International had ever done. Five, R.S. Jones.
But it's much too strong.
You know this song. It has been in your life for a long time. In cars, in kitchens, at weddings, on the radio at 2 in the morning. But knowing the song and knowing what it cost him are 2 entirely different kinds of knowing. Let me give you the second one.
We both know that it's wrong. But
Philadelphia International released it in October of 1972. It entered the Billboard Hot 100 on October the 29th. On December the 3rd, it hit number 1 on the R&B chart, and it stayed there 4 weeks.
we gotta be extra careful.
On December the 10th, it hit number 1 on the Hot 100 and stayed there 3 weeks. 16 weeks on that chart total.
Holding hands, making.
And I want to be precise because the scale of this gets flattened by time. It was number 1 on both charts at once. It was Philadelphia International's first number 1 record, the record that put that entire label on the map. The album went to number 1 on the R&B album chart at the end of December and reached 17 on the pop side. At the Grammys, he won Best R&B Vocal Performance, Male.
Let it go now.
Look at what it sat between on the Hot 100. It took the top spot from Helen Reddy's I Am Woman. It handed it over to Carly Simon's You're So Vain. That is the altitude we are talking about.
We meet every day.
38 years old. 20 years of nothing, and then the biggest record in America.
Inside.
And there is a detail here that people always get wrong, so let me correct it. The man singing that confession about a standing 6:30 appointment with another man's wife was married to the same woman for nearly 50 years. It was a performance. He was that good at it. Critics started saying he was on a path toward Curtis Mayfield, toward Marvin Gaye. That was the company he was being measured against in early 1973.
The same cafe, 6:30.
That is the peak of the story. It lasted 4 months. Here is the decision that ended it.
Jones, Jones. We got a
3. The Long Descent. Here is what a career looks like after the door closes. Not a cliff, a slope. Documented, chart position by chart position, over 6 years. November 1973, War of the Gods. Long, ambitious, psychedelic soul. 12 on the R&B chart, 110 on the Billboard 200. It carried Thanks for Saving My Life, which reached number 37 pop, number 9 R&B, 33 in the UK. Hold that number, 37. That is the last time Billy Paul was ever in the American Pop Top 40. 1975, Got My Head On Straight. 20 R&B, 140 pop. Late 1975, When Love Is New, 17 R&B, 139 pop. It gave him Let's Make a Baby, which reached 83 on the Hot 100. 83, that is the last record Billy Paul ever placed on the Hot 100 in his life. And then the second thing happened, the part almost nobody knows. Reverend Jesse Jackson took public issue with the content of his records, twice. Chicago's WAVON, the oldest black-oriented station in the city, altered Let's Make a Baby before airing it. I'm so glad. And when Paul recorded his version of Paul McCartney's Let 'Em In, which he had rebuilt into a civil rights record, calling out Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, the Kennedys, Louis Armstrong, a WAVON engineer spliced a Jesse Jackson speech in over the King material. Read that sequence again. Pop radio dropped him for being too political, and then a black station edited his civil rights record. He had nowhere left that would carry him intact. His last charting album for Philadelphia International came in 1977. Through the 80s and 90s, he moved from label to label. Limited success. He started his own outfit, Billy Paul Management and Production, and began working with other Philadelphia artists. If this name was in your house growing up, you already understand what I am saying, and you have been nodding for 10 minutes. But none of that is where he actually went. And where he actually went is the part of this story I find hardest to forgive. Two, where he actually went.
Sweet, sweet love to you.
Ask most Americans what happened to Billy Paul after 1973, and they will tell you he disappeared.
Make a baby. Oh, baby.
I need to correct the record, because it is not close to true, and the truth is more damning than the myth.
By my side is the place you'll be.
In 1973, he went to Europe on tour with the OJs. The live album that came out of it reached number 10 on the Billboard Soul chart, and then he kept going. For 4 decades. He built full audiences in Europe, in South America, in Asia. One of his live records was assembled from performances in Sao Paulo, in Paris, in Bermuda, and in Philadelphia.
Don't be shy, don't be shy. Let's be.
In December of 2000, he played a private show in Paris that was released as a live album outside the United States. And through every mile of it, the person booking him was his wife, Blanche, agent, co-manager, and the fiercest advocate he had. The marriage that started in 1967 became the business that outlasted every label he was ever on.
Don't be shy, don't be shy.
In 2009, a Swedish filmmaker made a feature documentary about his life. He named it after the song that supposedly ruined him, Am I Black Enough for You? And Paul's reaction to that is the thing I want you to keep. He said the song is more popular now than it ever was, and more popular with white listeners too, and that this was the good part. The record that got him removed from American radio in 1973 outlived the industry that removed him. So let me be clear about what I am saying.
I hope and pray that he smiles.
Billy Paul did not vanish. He was in front of thousands of people a year, on 3 continents, singing at full strength for 40 more years.
Take my hand.
He vanished from one country's radio format. That is the entire extent of it. And we agreed to call that disappearance because it happened outside our line of sight. Some of you just got quiet. That is the correct response.
I want my baby to have.
He was still taking bookings the month he died. I want to tell you how it ended.
By my side is the place you'll be.
1 April 24th, 2016. He was 81 years old and he was still working. That is the first thing, not touring occasionally, working.
We gotta live in peace and harmony.
His manager said he had numerous appearances lined up at the time of his death. He had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer only recently. He was hospitalized at Temple University Hospital in the same city where his mother had put him through music school 70 years earlier. He died at his home in Blackwood, New Jersey on Sunday, April the 24th, 2016, 81 years old.
And I will preach the sermon and say, free at last.
A career that ran from 1952 to 2016, 64 years. He is survived by Blanche and by their 2 children. And one of his favorite songs to perform in those last years was Purple Rain. Prince died 3 days before he did.
In order for it to come together, we gotta unite.
Gamble and Huff released a statement that night. They said that from the first time they saw him perform live, they knew they had one of the most unique voices in the music industry.
Friends, Brother Martin, we can't forget.
That he combined jazz, R&B, and soul. That he was one of the first artists to launch that label. That he would forever have a special place in music history. And every word of that is true. It is also true that one of those 2 men overrode him on the single that ended his American career, and that he said so, publicly, for the rest of his life. Both of those things are the record. I am not going to smooth either one over to make this end cleaner. What he said about those years himself, 1 year before he died, was that it was like a family full of music. Music around the clock. And that he still wished those days were here. He forgave it. He never stopped being clear about what it cost him.
My brothers, free at last, my brothers.
That is a harder thing to do than either bitterness or silence, and it tells you more about the man than any sea.
I want to see between the folks that been watching the scenes. You know,